Good morning. Good morning, Namaskar. This is Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India on this day, July 12, 2021. Monday, previous video 419 was broken, interrupted. So I am trying again if it can work. I talked at length about safety and quality. Now I am going to talk about fire protection. Fire protection is a very important issue. Fire and safety, fire protection and safety, which says it's chapter 10 of this book, that is safety, health and environment, and scope is that it applies to all facilities including workshops, offices, temporary accommodation and construction areas on projects. Also applies to all areas on life camps. Requirements should be considered mandatory, and this is very brief scope I have given you, but it applies everywhere in life, in work, or you can say wherever you work, on sites. It applies everywhere. Here we are given only workshops, offices, temporary accommodation, etc., etc. Because general, fire is very much, it can be applied in market, it can be applied in, residential areas, it can be applied everywhere. This is very much important to understand. And purpose of this procedure is to highlight possible fire hazards. Define precautions and procedures for suppression of such fires. Because if fires happen, we have to suppress it. That's very much required. So that facilities are protected. Means we don't want to burn our facilities because of fire. So we have to suppress that, or we have to take preventive measures, loss preventive measures. This is not question of suggestion alone, it's question of requirement now that loss prevention approach should be adopted rather than firefighting approach. Means if we apply loss prevention methods, that is much better than accepting fire and allowing our properties, our people to be burned. That's sole purpose, loss prevention. Definitions are there every time. I don't want to repeat. Same definitions: what is safety, what is company, what is contractor, what is subcontractor, what is client, what is personal, what is responsibility, what is training, what is management. Since training is particular, they are that training and part of a specific safety topic on job. And then I will talk about training and management, means organization on top, whatever it is. These responsibilities, project manager, site manager, all are same, repetitive. What is site safety officer, construction manager, site engineer, safety inspector, site foreman, individual. Responsibility is also there, means every responsibility is same, which is attached to every profession. In particular is that to assist in providing whatever training is required for fire teams, fire wardens, contractors, etc. is all there. I don't want to go into repetition of that. There's so many other videos available. You can refer to them, find them. Time I can't consume, just wasting. So here is very important point. EPC contractor and subcontractor safety supervisors shall ensure what? In connection with fire. Office and camp fire action notices are posted at state locations. Sufficient emergency assembly points are created or set up. Emergency points means assembly points. Uninformed regular practice evacuation drills are performed. Unplanned or ununiform means just conduct that, just alarm fires and let people come back there. No. Sufficient number of office and camp staff have been assigned with responsibility to act as fire wardens. Office and camp staff, in particular new personnel, are briefed and kept updated on fire and emergency response procedures. Control of flammable materials used in premises, namely photocopier fluids, miscellaneous low-profile chemicals and oils, etc., works well in line to defined procedures. Provisions of lid refuse containers for safe disposal of aerosol which have contained flammable materials, that is lid refuse containers, and also ensuring that a clean desk policy is being adhered to. Clean desk policy, that materials are not allowed to accumulate at one location. Materials are not allowed to accumulate on one location by regular housekeeping, maintenance and inspections of offices at one location, at close of business or some other suitable times. Very important point it is ensuring that clean desk policy is being adhered to, that materials are not being allowed to accumulate at one location by regular housekeeping, maintenance and inspections of offices at close of business or some other suitable time. Daily inspections of offices to ensure that walkways are not obstructed, carpet and other fittings are secured, fire doors kept closed, that all means of escape are being well maintained to be in tidy state. Provision of metal filing cabinets for storing documents, stationery, and other potentially flammable items. Metal filing cabinets for storing documents, stationery, and other potentially flammable items lies with electrical instrumentation department for inspection, testing, and servicing of fire alarms, smoke detection unit. Very important point. Lies with electrical instrumentation department for inspection, testing, and servicing of fire alarms, smoke detection units. Kitchen areas shall be monitored to ensure that electrical fittings are being turned off after use and do not present any fire hazard. Clear glass doors shall have direction of opening, namely push or pull, and a warning strip placed to prevent personnel running into them. Training to use fire extinguishers be given and direction signs displayed highlighting emergency procedures. No smoking policy, rules, meetings, and video conference rooms. Common social areas, mess halls, and toilets within camp are inspected before closure of deactivating possible ignition sources following each meal shift and at end of evening or last shift. I repeat it just because these are very important points for everyone. It is, let us go back a little, and it says this is about, it says, let us say start EPC contractors, safety supervisors, including discipline supervisors and engineers where required, may ensure that workings of this procedure are understood well and followed by all personnel on project. Provides necessary training and routine to all concerned personnel, carries out regular audits of fire arrangements in place, including conducting all fire drills. Ensure that fire extinguishers and certain other protection systems are subject to regular monthly inspections, examination. Ensures that fire extinguishers and certain other protection systems are subject to regular monthly inspections, examinations. EPC contractor and subcontractor safety supervisor shall ensure offices and campfire action notices are posted at strategic locations, sufficient emergency assembly points are set up, uninformed regular practice evacuation drills are performed regularly, or you can say conducted regularly. Sufficient number of offices and camp staff have been assigned with responsibility to act as fire wardens. Office and camp staff, in particular new personnel, are briefed and kept updated on fire and emergency response procedures. Control of flammable materials used on premises, namely photocopier fluids, miscellaneous low profile chemicals and oils, etc., work well in line to defined procedure. Provision of lid refuse containers for safe disposal of aerosol which have contained flammable materials. Ensuring that a clean desk policy is being adhered to, that materials are not allowed to accumulate at one location by regular housekeeping, maintenance, and inspections of offices at close of business or some other suitable time. Daily inspections of office to ensure that walkways are not obstructed, carpet and other fittings are secured, fire doors kept closed, that all means of escape are being well maintained to remain tidy. Provision of metal filing cabinets for storing documents, stationery, and other potentially flammable items. Lies with electrical instrumentation department for inspection, testing and servicing of fire alarms, smoke detection units, etc. Kitchen areas shall be monitored to ensure that electrical fittings are being turned off after use and do not present any fire hazard. Clear glass doors shall have direction of opening, namely push-pull, and a warning strip placed to prevent personnel running into them. Training to use fire extinguishers shall be given and direction signs displayed highlighting emergency procedure. No smoking policy rules, meetings and video conference rooms. No smoking policy rules in meetings and in video conferencing rooms. Common social areas, mess halls and toilets when within camps are inspected before closure for deactivating possible ignition sources following each meal shift and at end of evening or last shift. Common social areas, mess halls and toilets within camp are inspected before closure for deactivating possible ignition sources following each meal shift and at end of evening or last shift. Liaison with EPC contractor, safety department, HSC department for regular audits, inspection of camp, main site office, surrounding areas and all other temporary facilities. Job wise, camp boss shall comply with requirements outlined in foregoing. Also shall check accommodation areas to ensure that residents comply with requirements for fire protection procedures. Specifically, ensure that personnel are informed not to interfere with fire detection devices or systems. No smoking policy applies in bedroom areas, in common areas, in toilet areas, and all other such designated areas. Ensure that night security guards regularly patrol camp areas and ensure that fire has not broken out, that security lights are operable or working, as well as to identify all other potential areas prone to possible fire, possible risks. Ensure that a strict regime is functional regarding waste removal, especially combustible items, on a daily basis or more frequently as material delivery requires. Ensure that cooking is not undertaken in habitable rooms. Rooms are serviced, cleaned, waste and or trash removed on a daily basis. Hallways, entrances and fire escapes are kept free of obstructions as well as cleaned with trash removed on a daily basis. This is hallways, entrances and fire escapes are kept free of obstructions as well as cleaned with trash removed on a daily basis. Trash collected from individual rooms must not be left lying in hallways following departure of cleaner from individual cabins. Immediate removal has to be conducted by cleaner. EPC contractor, maintenance leader, manager shall ensure that following control measures are functional. Control measures are functional. Workshops are maintained in a neat and tidy manner, that waste oil, rags and other flammable materials are removed at the end of each shift or as necessary. Maintenance personnel are instructed to use fire extinguishers, raising alarm and fire hazards at workplace. Workshops are maintained in a neat and tidy manner, that waste oil, rags and other flammable materials are removed at the end of each shift or as necessary. Maintenance personnel are instructed to use fire extinguishers, raising alarm and fire hazards at workplace. Battery recharging shall be conducted in well ventilated areas with no smoking signs depicted and no fire extinguishers fixed. Areas around pedestal grinders and other hot work type activities are kept free of combustibles. Welding and burning shall be screened and controlled to prevent fire risks and exposure to personnel. That flammable liquids such as gasoline, diesel, etc. are not used for cleaning purposes. Provision of adequate storage areas located in places where exits, passageways and stairways are not adversely affected. Provisions of adequate storage areas located in places where exits, passageways and stairways are not adversely affected, obstructed. Flammable liquids are stored safely in a neat and tidy manner with adequate safety signs provided. Instructions. Following instructions outline some principal precautions and necessary arrangements. General. Materials and equipment shall be maintained in an orderly manner so as to reduce or prevent possibility of fire spread. Materials shall not be stored in a manner that obstruct fire points, sprinkler heads, alarms, emergency exits, electrical panels and walkways, etc. Material shall not be stored close to openings so as to avoid concealing both floor openings and hoistways. Consideration shall be given to fire loading imposed in an area by placement of materials. Consideration shall be given to fire loadings imposed in an area by placement of materials. Doors provided for emergency escape shall open outwards in direction of walking or forward movement. Equipment shall not be fueled when engine is running. Smoking is prohibited whilst refueling activities are ongoing. Incompatible materials shall not be stored in proximity to each other. Scaffolding boards shall be swept and kept free of flammable materials. This is journal. Let us repeat. Journal. Materials and equipment shall be maintained in an orderly manner so as to reduce or prevent possibility of fire spread. Materials shall not be stored in a manner that obstructs fire points, sprinkler heads, alarms, emergency exits, electrical panels, and walkways. Materials shall not be stored close to openings so as to avoid concealing both floor openings and hoistways. Consideration be given to fire loading imposed in an area by placement of materials. Doors provided for emergency escape shall open outwards in direction of walking or forward movement. Equipment shall not be fueled when engine runs. Smoking is prohibited whilst refueling activities are ongoing. Incompatible materials shall not be stored in proximity to each other. Scaffold boards shall be swept and kept free of flammable material. Cutting and welding. Cutting and welding shall be controlled by permits. PTW, we call it as necessary during commissioning and startup, as well as tie-ins to existing facilities or wherever required. Particular care shall be taken when carrying out hot work operations in locations where combustible materials may be present. This shall include precautions such as inspection of surrounding area, removal of whatever combustible materials, protection by providing fire blankets, and provisions of fire extinguishers. Compressed gas cylinders shall be closed when not in use and well stored, properly secured and kept in an upright position at all times. Protective end caps shall be fitted when being moved or transported unless by cylinder trolleys. Compressed gas cylinders shall be kept clear of electrical equipment and cabling where they may become part of an electrical circuit. Gas cylinders shall not be taken into confined spaces. Feed hoses and nozzles, when cylinder is used in confined spaces, shall be removed when not in use. Oxygen cylinders shall be kept free of oil and grease. Valve wrenches shall be left in position on valve system all time. Valve wrenches shall be kept left in position on valve stem all times. When cylinder is in use, fuel gas and oxygen hoses shall be clearly distinguishable, kept in good condition and secured properly. Wire is not permitted. Flashbacks arresters must be fitted to both oxygen and fuel gas regulators and manifolds. Fire extinguishers shall be available before hot work commences, and persons trained in their proper use. Oxygen and fuel gas cylinders shall be stored at least 6 meters apart. Oxygen and fuel gas cylinders shall be stored at least 6 meters apart or separated by a fire resistant wall or 2 centimeter thick steel plate. Wood cuttings, offcuts, sandblast. So I'll repeat this first. This is here about you can say cutting and welding is important. Cutting and welding shall be controlled by permits PTW as necessary during commissioning and startup, as well as tie is existing facilities or wherever required. Particular care shall be taken when carrying out hot work operations in locations where combustible materials may be present. This shall include precautions such as inspection of surrounding areas, removal of whatever combustible materials, protection by providing fire blankets and provision of fire extinguishers. Compressed gas cylinders shall be closed when not in use and well stored, properly secured and kept in an upright position all times. Protected end caps shall be fitted when being moved or transported unless by cylinder trolleys. Compressed gas cylinders shall be kept clear of electrical equipment and cabling where they make part of an electrical circuit. Compressed gas cylinders shall be kept clear of electrical equipment and cabling where they may become part of an electrical circuit. Gas cylinders shall not be taken into confined spaces. Feed hoses and nozzles when cylinder is used. Feed hoses and nozzles when cylinder is used in confined spaces shall be removed when not in use. Oxygen cylinders shall be kept free of oil and grease. Valve wrenches shall be left in position on valve stem at all times when cylinder is in use. Valve wrenches shall be left in position on valve stem all times when cylinder is in use. Fuel gas and oxygen hoses shall be clearly distinguishable. Fuel gas and oxygen hoses shall be clearly distinguishable, kept in good condition and secured properly. Wire is not permitted. Flashback arresters must be fitted to both oxygen and fuel gas regulators and manifolds. Fire extinguishers shall be available before hot work commences and persons trained in their proper use. Oxygen and fuel gas cylinders shall be stored at least 6 meters apart or separated by a fire resistant wall or 2 centimeter thick steel plate. Wood cuttings, offcuts, sawdust. Five minutes, please. So we can say about wood cuttings, offcuts, sawdust. Carpentry shop shall be swept clean daily. Carpentry shop shall be swept completely cleared clean daily, or more frequently subject to workload, daily or half daily or 2 hourly, 4 hourly, depending on how much material of dust has been collected. Cuttings, offcuts, etc. shall be placed immediately in internal bins adjacent to band saws. Planing machines, etc. prior to being removed to external collectors. Wood shape shall be neatly built. Wood shapes shall be neatly built, stored externally to shop by size in racks or similar and raised from grade. Materials kept within shop shall also be stored in racks or feeder tables and must not be allowed to cluster floor space adjacent to shop equipment. Safe ingress and egress to and from machines. Locations must be functional, operational all times. Plywood or steel shutters shall be neatly stacked and raised above grade ground. Prime consideration shall be given to maintaining accessways for firefighting vehicular equipment. Garage, fuel storage and lube oils. So let us first finish wood cutting. Wood cutting that we discussed, offcuts, sawdust. Carpentry shop shall be swept clean daily, one or more times, or you can say more frequently, subject to dependence on workload. Cuttings, offcuts, etc. shall be placed immediately in internal bins adjacent to band saws. Adjacent to band saws, planing machines, etc. prior to being removed to external collectors. Wood shapes shall be neatly built. Wood shapes shall be neatly built, stored externally to shop by size in racks or similar and raised from grade, or similar arrangement and raised from grade or floor. Materials kept within shop shall also be stored in racks or feeder tables and must not be allowed to cluster on floor space adjacent to shop equipment. Safe ingress and egress to and from machines. Locations must be functional, operational all times. Plywood or steel shutters shall be neatly stacked and raised above grade. Prime consideration shall be given to maintaining access ways for firefighting vehicular equipment. Now, garage fuel storage and lube oil changes. Garage fuel storage, lube oil changes. Tools shall be uplifted. Areas swept and oil impregnated waste rags disposed of daily. Maintenance areas where lubricating oil changes etc. are performed shall be in paved you can say lean concrete maybe, areas suitable of being hosed down and collected from its hard surface. Project vehicles, including engineer undersides, shall be washed down in paved areas to avoid dispersal of hydrocarbons and subsequent fire risk. Storage of fuels and lubricants, containment, storage of fuels and lubricants, containment requirements shall be agreed with engineer beforehand. Location of maintenance shop shall be selected considering fuel storage. Safety signs shall be posted. Safety signs shall be posted in three languages: English, Hindi, etc. You can say whatever else or wherever you are. Free extinguishers, fire extinguishers shall be posted in prominent protected places or fixed in prominent protected places. It is for, now we can say, garage, fuel storage and lube oil changes. Tools shall be uplifted, area swapped and oil impregnated waste rags disposed of daily. Maintenance areas where lube oil changes etc. are performed shall be in paved lean concrete areas suitable of being hosed down and collected from its hard surface. Project vehicles, even engineer's vehicle, underside shall be washed down in paved areas to avoid dispersal of hydrocarbons and subsequent fire risk. Storage of fuels and lubricants, containment requirements shall be agreed with engineer beforehand. Location of maintenance shop shall be selected considering fuel storage. Location of maintenance shop shall be selected considering fuel storage. Safety signs shall be posted in three languages: English or whatever else you can say, two more languages which our people know or which country you work in. Fire extinguishers shall be posted in or fixed in prominent protected places. Now painting and then GRE. Painting activities, storage of paint and more especially thinners or solvents shall be strictly controlled. Storage of paint and more especially thinners or solvents shall be strictly controlled. Accumulation of waste rags for cleansing or use with solvents shall be prohibited. Accumulation of waste rags for cleansing or use with solvents shall be prohibited. They shall be collected in fit for purpose containers and thereafter soaked with water prior to dispersal. Accumulation of empty containers shall be prohibited. Should any attempt to use them for fabrication or other purposes not permitted. So, storage of paint and more especially thinners or solvents shall be strictly prohibited and strictly controlled, not prohibited, controlled. Storage of paint and more especially thinners or solvents shall be strictly controlled. Accumulation of waste rags for cleansing or use with solvents shall be prohibited. They shall be collected in fit for purpose containers and thereafter soaked with water prior to disposal. Accumulation of empty containers shall be prohibited. Should, if any, attempt to use them For fabrication or other purpose not permitted. GRP pipe but wrapping materials. Storage of jointing materials shall be strictly controlled. Particular care and attention shall be observed during cutting and fabrication activities to reduce risk of explosion and resultant fires. Particular care and attention shall also be observed with regard to internal butt wrapping of joints to ensure that atmosphere would not augment possibility of combustion. Says GRP pipe butt wrapping materials. Storage of jointing materials shall be strictly controlled. Particular care and attention shall be observed during cutting and fabrication activities to reduce risk of explosion and resultant fires. Particular care and attention shall also be observed with regard to internal butt wrapping of joints to ensure that atmosphere would not augment possibility of combustion. So these are very brief points we discussed in fire. These are very brief. You can say we discussed about what is purpose, then we discussed about, I'm not talking of definitions here. You discussed about here fire action in offices, in camps, wherever we say what actions are required, and we reviewed that. How we have to handle areas, how we handle mess, bedrooms, fire rooms, all that, electrical areas, what actions we have to take in offices and camps, all that. What are precautions, what are loss prevention activities, and what are fire suppression issues. How to inspect, what to inspect, who to inspect, and what is responsibility of that. What camp boss has to do, where is no smoking required or not required. And we have to take what contractor has to do in various, how to handle batteries, what about welding and burning, like that, flammable activities, flammable liquids, instructions, which are general, then cutting and welding, and then it is, various other activities we discussed, fuel storage, garage, leave oils, and then we discussed vehicles maintenance and all that. All this we discussed is a very important one. And now we can say next important point is, we may say PPEs, fire protection. Now we close it down and we take PPC up. PPEs, personal protective equipment, very important one. We should know about that. Personal protective equipment, very common term. It applies everywhere in life, in every activity. Personal protective equipment, and I think everybody knows about this. It's clearly in there, so person, it is for person because it's personal product equipment. This applies to all personnel to be employed on EPC contract, construction projects, including subcontractors and all visitors to project sites. No one is exempted from mandatory use of PPE. And nowadays, in COVID-19, it's not only on projects but also at home, in streets, everywhere in society you have to use that. Use of mask, use of specs, also part of PPEs. Medicos use their kits, all PPEs, doctors, nurses in COVID-19 all over the world they use it. In home also you use masks, in crowds you use masks, in cars you use masks. Mask is one of those PPEs. Eyes protection is also required. Likewise, distancing is also a kind of PPE that you have to keep distance between two persons, not to speak in high volume without mask. Likewise, you can say so we say this procedure applies to all personnel to be employed on projects, whatever kind of projects, and also in Samaj, society, in life. Now you can say, you can expand this definition that it also applies to everyone, not only personal but everyone. No one is exempted from mandatory use of PPE or optional use of PPE. It's better if it's optional, but mandate is mandate. Purpose is that procedure has been developed to ensure that all site personnel are provided with and utilize appropriate personal protective equipment. In short, we call it PPE, to protect self against work-related hazards or like COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic, which may endanger personal health and safety. In hierarchy of risk control, personal protective and respiratory protective equipment, personal protective and respiratory protective equipment, PPE and RPE, are accepted with recognition as preventive defense support from risk exposure, which should not be considered as a substitute for eliminating or controlling risks at source. PPEs are not used subject to personal pleasure but shall be mandatory in action or practice. Personal pleasure doesn't mean anything here. It's question of health, not pleasure. If you want pleasure, then you don't care for health, and just for a temporary moment, and that moment may spoil your health, spoil your life. PPEs are not used for enjoying, these are not used for drawing pleasure, but these are mandatory in action or practice. Now certain definitions which are same, I don't think any specific point lies there to repeat. Safety, company, contractor, subcontractor, client, personal means, responsibility, training, management, safety manager, all same. So don't waste time. You go and see past videos. Here is something specific about PPE. Personal protective equipment is defined as equipment designed to be used by personnel or individual to protect and act as barrier against work related hazards which may exist on various activities. Now it's not only on work related hazards but also living related hazard, means COVID-19. Likewise, responsibility in general, project manager, site manager, safety manager, construction manager, project site engineer, site safety, site foreman, all the same. Responsibility is all same contractor, site, okay. instruction. Now, general requirements. General requirements. Now, what are those? Let's see them. Risks posed in some particular work activity shall be assessed. We have to estimate it, we have to assess it, and the adequate PPE selected in accordance with considerations. What are those considerations? Let's see this. Gives protection against risk without in itself leading to any increased risk. We have to give protection against whatever risk is available, and we should not give a protection in such a way that it leads to another risk. No, it should be right one, gives protection against risk without in itself leading to any increased risk. Suitability for use or personal. Suitability for user or personal. Suitability for user you can say, because now everybody is subject to use, is required to use PPEs. For example, you are using mask in COVID-19. You also use helmet while driving bike, motorcycle. You also use glasses during sun, and also you can say many such requirements. Some people, doctors use kits, nurses use kits, like that. Then compatibility for work activity, complies with recognized national or international standards of design or construction. It may be BS, EN, ANSI, DIN, ISO, NIOSH, whatsoever. All employees shall be provided with necessary PPE, personal protective equipment, as defined for their particular work activity. PPE and necessary training courses shall be provided, allowed to employ free of cost. All employees shall be held responsible for proper care and use of whatever PPE is applied to them. All employees shall be held responsible for proper care and use of whatever PPE supplied to them. PPE shall be replaced free of charge to employee which becomes deficient and defective through normal work, uses or wear and tear, so that at all times worker is adequately protected. Normal wear and tear shall include period of effective use specified by manufacturer and meeting requirements of basic hygiene standards. Supervisors shall be responsible to ensure that all personnel on project are trained in use of PPE, provided with wearing all PPE required for activity and environment of work. Personnel not properly equipped with, for whatever reason, shall not attend, start or continue work. Very important point. Personnel not properly equipped for whatever reason shall not attend, start or continue work. All employees shall wear appropriate PPE supplied to them all times. While working at site, supervisors shall apply disciplinary actions. Supervisors shall apply disciplinary actions in accordance with project's procedures to all who fail to comply with PPE requirements. PPE selection. PPE shall be selected and used to provide protection for all personnel and visitors on project against inhalation and respiratory tract hazards inhalation and respiratory tract hazards, skin contact hazards, mechanical injury and hazards, construction safety hazards, physical agent hazards, environmental hazards, radiological hazards. Consideration of hazards, impacts of hazards, consideration of hazards, impacts of hazards, degree of risks by hazards to personal and equivalent protection requirement. Degree, consideration of hazards, impact of hazards, degree of risk by hazards to personal and equipment protection requirement, positive effects, consequences by use, etc. All factors shall be included in determination selection respecting PPE for each work activity element. Personal protective equipment policy. Basic requirements for PPE on a construction operation project are as follows. Safety helmet of plastic construction. Safety helmet of plastic construction manufactured in accordance with ISO 3873 BS5240 or equivalent. Safety footwear with steel toe protection manufactured in accordance with BS 953 DIN 4843 or equivalent. Construction and sole materials shall be chosen in accordance with activity and adequacy for place of work. In addition to above, coveralls shall be supplied to employees who work in areas of exposure where normal clothing is considered insufficient, namely live plant areas, workshops, painting, short blasting, etc. In industrial or oil sector projects, no personnel can enter without wearing such clothing. So these are live plant areas, workshops, painting, short blasting, etc. In industrial and oil sector projects, no personnel can enter without wearing such clothing. Basic PPE shall be worn on project all time in construction areas or locations. These locations include but are not limited to whenever notices are displayed stating that such PPE shall be worn. Such notices shall be in English, Arabic and Urdu or whatever area of work and nation of work you have, accordingly that language. Visual signs shall also be displayed, outline, drawing of hard hat, boots, etc. Whatever production and or construction areas of project. All well locations, inclusive of locations in preparation, drilling, production and work phases. All construction sites, inclusive of construction repairs to existing buildings. All abrasive blasting operations during all excavation work, inclusive of digging trenches, when working near excavating equipment or work, where depth of excavation is such that metal could fall into excavation during pipeline operations. during pipeline operation, working with machinery. Working with machinery or equipment where a significant hazard of projection of debris exists, namely using portable powered saws and heavy cutting machinery. All structural works areas at all levels, all finishing activities areas. Let me repeat this, it's an important one. Basic, you see, basic PPE shall be worn on projects all times in construction areas or locations. These locations include but are not limited to whenever notices are displayed stating that such PPEs shall be worn. Such notices should be in its own language which people understand in addition to English. English, of course. English or French or whatever is the international one. Visual signs shall also be displayed, outline drawing of hard hat, boots, etc. Oh, whatever production and or construction areas of project. All well locations, inclusive of locations in preparation, drilling, production and work phases. All construction sites, inclusive of construction repairs to existing buildings. All abrasive blasting operations during all excavation work, inclusive of digging trenches when working near excavating equipment or work where depth of excavation is such that materials could fall into excavation during pipeline operations. Working with machinery or equipment where a significant hazard of projection of debris exists, using portable power saw and heavy cutting machinery. All structural activities at all levels, all finishing activities areas. Now following exceptions to above are considered acceptable. Welders, when actually welding and cutting, where necessary eye shield or heat protective cap prevents its use, are not required to wear a hard hat. Welders were actually welding and cutting, Where necessary, eye shield or heat protective cap prevents its use. Are not required to wear hard hat. Eye and face protection. Eyes and face protection. Suitable goggles, face shield or screens shall be worn. Suitable protective goggles, face shield or screen shall be worn by personnel involved in assisting with or adjacent to certain activity where exists danger of projected debris, dust, sparks or other particles, corrosive fluids or mist, excessive heat, light or other harmful radiations. Such work situations include but are not limited to working with rotating equipment such as grinders, drills, lathes, working with rotating equipment such as grinders, drills, lathes, cutting and welding, chipping, chiseling or caulking, using powder bolt, driving tools, spraying of abrasives, working with chemicals, working with paints, disinfectant, pesticides, or other toxic or hazardous fluids, working with strong sources of electromagnetic radiation, arc and gas welding, working in open with winds blowing sand, working with high pressure water jetting equipment and steam cleaning equipment. Let's repeat this. Also very important. Eyes and face protection. Suitable protective goggles, face shield or screens shall be worn by personnel involved in assisting with or adjacent to certain activity where exists danger of projected debris, dust, sparks or other particles, corrosive fluids or mist, excessive heat, light or other harmful radiation. Such work situations include but are not limited to working with rotating equipment such as grinders, drills, lathes, cutting and welding, chipping, chiseling or caulking, using powder, bolt, driving tools, spraying of abrasives, working with chemicals, working with paints, disinfectant, pesticides or other toxic or hazardous fluids, working with strong sources of electromagnetic radiation, arc and gas welding, working in open with winds blowing sand, working with high pressure water jetting equipment and steam cleaning equipment. An eye and face protection shall be manufactured in accordance with established national or international standards such as ISO 4849, BS 2092 personal eye protectors, BS 2724 sun glare eye protection, ISO 4850, BS 679 personal eye protectors for welding filters. Necessity for wearing eyes protection for work activities shall be indicated at worksite by prominent signs in English or whatever else language of use in that area. Visual representation of type of protection required shall also be displayed. Line drawing of goggles or face masks. Visual representation of type of protection required shall also be displayed. Line drawing of goggles or face mask. In general, eye and face protection that is worn frequently shall be issued on a personal basis. Multiple users in a workshop would, in case of fixed grinding, drilling, and other rotating machines, use may be exceptions to this. In such cases, it is recommended to leave suitable eye protection adjacent to machine with a warning sign displayed advising of need for eye protection. Practice of wearing tinted safety glass to decrease eye strain and fatigue from strong sun glare should be encouraged. What is that? Practice of wearing tinted safety glass. Tinted safety glass to decrease eye strain and fatigue from strong sun glare should be encouraged. Wrap around eye protection. Wrap around eye protection, if available, shall be worn by employee following medical approval assessment. When employee wears spectacles for normal working activities, use of contact lenses is ill-advised and discouraged in case of sandy or dusty climate. Respiratory protection. Respiratory protective equipment. Respiratory protective equipment shall be available to all persons who are exposed to situation where atmosphere can be susceptible to be either deficient in oxygen or containing some harmful substances. Whether particle, dust, mist, vapor or gas, including work in containers or vessels where a danger of oxygen deficiency or harmful gases may be present. Work in shafts, sewers or enclosed septic tanks. Grit or abrasive blasting operations. Underwater diving, construction or repairs. Personnel must receive adequate training prior to using respiratory protective equipment. Respiratory protection repeated. Respiratory protective equipment shall be available to all persons who are exposed to situation where atmosphere can be susceptible to be either deficient in oxygen or containing some harmful substance. Weather particle, that is, weather particle, dust, mist, vapor or gas, including work in containers or vessels where a danger of oxygen deficiency or harmful gases may be present. Work in shafts, sewers or enclosed septic tanks, grit or abrasive blasting operation, underwater diving, construction or repairs. Personnel must receive adequate training prior to using respiratory protective equipment. Hearing protection. Hearing protection shall be made available to all workers exposed to noise levels of 80 decibel above for long period of shift. Protective devices shall be in conformance with BS 6344 industrial hearing protectors or equivalent. On all works environments where noise level is at or above 85 dB, prominent signs in English or other languages, whatever, shall be displayed indicating need for ear protection. A visual sign in form of a line drawing of ear muffs shall also be displayed. In general, hearing protection that is required to be worn frequently shall be issued on a personal basis. In addition to personal issue, it is recommended to leave suitable hearing protection at entrance into high level noise areas. Head and arm protection. Adequate hand and arm protection shall be available for all manual workers. Type of protection worn shall be selected according to hazard to be protected against. These include but are not limited to impacts, cuts, abrasions, and infections. Extreme temperature, chemical, toxic, corrosive, and other hazardous substances. Hand and arm protection shall conform, where applicable, meeting a recognized national or international standard such as specification for industrial gloves BS 1651, specification for rubber gloves for electrical work 697 BS. Hands and arms protective devices shall be regularly inspected and replaced when physically damaged or contaminated by substances such as greases, paints, drilling fluids, or chemicals which might impair their effectiveness or safety. Body protection. Adequate body protection such as special suits, aprons, leggings, etc. shall be provided for whatever work which involves hazards such as described. Specific and adequate body protection shall be supplied for all work activities which present these hazards, including but not limited to working during extreme temperatures such as firefighting, heating furnace, working during extreme temperatures such as firefighting, heating furnace attendance, working in refrigeration plant, etc., welding, burning, cutting and grinding, then handling or mixing of acids and other toxic, corrosive or hazardous chemicals, clean up and disposal of hazardous waste, asbestos, chemical, hydrocarbon, etc. Specific and adequate body protection shall be supplied for all work activities which present these hazards, including but not limited to working during extreme temperatures such as firefighting, heating, furnace attendance, working in refrigeration plants, welding, burning, cutting and grinding, handling or mixing of acids and other toxic, corrosive or hazardous chemicals, clean up and disposal of hazardous waste, asbestos, chemical, hydrocarbons, body protective devices shall be manufactured to recognized national, international standards, specification for flame retardant industrial clothing, BS1547, specification for protective clothing for welders. BS2653, specification for protective aprons for wet work. BS3314, specification for clothing for protection against heat for short periods. BS3791, specification for air permeable chemical protective clothing. BS7182. Safety harness and lifelines. Safety harness and lifelines shall be provided, worn and properly secured in all work situations where some of following dangers exist. Safety harness and lifelines shall be provided, worn and properly secured in all work situations where some of following dangers exist: falling from a height greater than 2 meters, succumbing to toxic atmospheres or oxygen deficiency. Now, such situations include but are not limited to working on scaffolding, working in enclosed spaces such as vessels, in live or commissioned plants, work on certain high structures, whether in construction or maintenance, including petroleum processing plants, drilling rigs, storage tanks, work over water, rescue work in firefighting from high structures and from hazardous atmospheres. Safety belts are not acceptable, only safety harnesses shall be used. All such safety harnesses and lifelines shall be manufactured and inspected in conformance to a recognized national or international standard. Just discuss PPEs in this talk. We may repeat it because this is PPE, but now we say that excavation safety, though it's not very big, but yet up to the responsibilities. Benching is to be defined, competent person is to be defined, excavation to be defined, hazardous atmosphere to be defined, protective system to be defined. Then responsibility is already there, instructions are there, and then say is something like technical very much, so we can say that what we discussed today in quality of safety. Definition almost same. Let's say what actually it says. It's a very important point we discussed this. This procedure applies to all excavations and trenches. I'll close this PP first. This applies to all excavations and trenches. Excavations can be shallow or deep, major or minor, mass area or for related footings, for infrastructural services. This procedure provides guidelines for protecting personnel and workers performing either excavation work or working in or adjacent to an excavation or trench from accidents by caving in or falling into trenches. Not necessary that strata be rock It shall be difficult to excavate in sandy soil and also in clay soft strata. It's been experienced that line staff always reacts confident to perform excavation using equipment or otherwise, but seldom care about consequences of collapse adjacent to excavation or about water mobility from beneath. Is therefore required to understand various pertinent effects. That's safety, company, contractor, subcontractor, etc., leave it behind. Responsibility is also same thing. So manager, construction manager, this and leave it behind. Now when the was benching. What's benching? I'm just giving a brief. I'll discuss it later on. Benching is a method of protecting personnel from caving in by excavating sides of an excavation trench to form one or a series of horizontal levels or steps. It breaks vertical continuity. Excavation work progresses in stages, vertically down to formation level, but upper stratum near ground is widened than lowest one. We'll give you a sketch, it's no problem. Competent person means deemed capable based on training and experience for identifying, assessing existing and predictable hazards. Okay, competent person being capable, being trained and experienced for identifying, assessing existing and practical hazards in surrounding or working conditions that is unsanitary, hazardous or dangerous to personnel. Competent person has necessary authorization to resort to prompt corrective measures. A thorough understanding pertinent methods of excavations is extremely significant to foresee risk involved. Excavation, some man-made cut, cavity, trench or depression in Earth's crust surface formed by earth removal. It generally means herein for construction purpose of whatever sort. Construction requires considerable excavation at initiation of project. This activity, though looks easy but is too delicate in many cases, it's prone to dangers. It may or may not require dewatering, continuous operations. It may be carried out shallow or deep. It may be carried out in soft soil or loose soil. It may be carried out in hard rock. More an excavation means more backfill. More deep an excavation means a high degree of risk. It's also to be considered that during excavation, when formation level reaches about existence of defined safe bearing capacity would be ascertained. So this is just a brief on this. I would like to close it now because I don't want to talk much in this case now. Better to, or I should continue. Well, let us brief only. Hazardous atmosphere. An atmosphere which by reason of being explosive, flammable, poisonous, corrosive, oxidizing, irritating, oxygen deficient, toxic or otherwise harmful, may cause death, injury or illness. on oil refineries plant and other subsidiary facilities, brownfield projects. Generally, foregoing factors conditions are available in atmosphere due to operations and post-operational effects. Due to ionization and vapor gas existence in atmosphere, fire can break out and other explosive effects can lead to destruction of buildings, plants, equipment and other losses. Protective system. A method to protect employees' personnel from caving in, such as shoring system, sloping and benching systems, shield systems and other systems that provide protection from obvious consequences from falls into excavations or excavation may fall onto worker. Protection system have been defined or relevant sketches. We'll go through this, we'll get to no problem. We'll get through this in coming talk. I cannot alone this excavation. We have to go through sketches and every requirement of this. Therefore,